We were expecting a lot of breaking news this morning, and it is taking care of itself. That is Schefter, who's taking care of all of it for us. Schefter, in the 3 minutes since last I spoke to you, a lot has happened. Go.
The New York Jets are trading for the former Pro Bowl safety Minkah Fitzpatrick, a 7th-round pick to the Miami Dolphins. The Jets get somebody who can call defensive signals for a 7th-round pick. It's the 7th-round pick this year that they own from the Los Angeles Chargers. The Dolphins were planning to move on from Minkah Fitzpatrick. They've been having trade discussions. They find a taker in the Jets who had been in the safety market. Minkah Fitzpatrick goes and signs a 3-year, $40 million deal, but Minkah Fitzpatrick, Greeny, is on the way to the New York Jets.
Okay. So Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Jets, and the news is coming, and Schefter will have more as we continue. Stay close by, Adam. I'll go to the NBA here, but we're ready to run back in case news. What can you tell us?
We have another trade, Greeny. The Green Bay Packers are finalizing a trade to send Rashan Gary to the Dallas Cowboys. I'm told it's going to be a late round 2027 draft pick. We're awaiting the confirmation on the trade. They're still working through it, still finalizing the deal. But Rashan Gary looks like he's going to be headed to the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys get some defensive help.
Okay. That's one that we were looking forward to. Let me bring my guys in on this. I've got Graziano, I've got J-Mac here. So let me ask you guys. J-Mac, we're waiting to see what the Cowboys would do, if they would move aggressively. This feels reasonably aggressive. It's not Trey Hendrickson. It's not Max Crosby, which are one of the things that we had talked about, but it is a move. What can you tell us? What is your reaction to Rashan Gary now with the Cowboys?
Well, we talked about the fact that the Dallas Cowboys, how much did they miss out on with Max Crosby? And we said earlier that, hey, there's still some guys out there, maybe free agency and maybe trade. And a guy like Rashan Gary, who was paired with Micah Parsons a season ago, he brings them a guy on the edge that can get after the quarterback, maybe not at the level of a Max Crosby or Micah Parsons, but a really good defensive end that also can set the edge and stop the run. The Cowboys were going to need multiple players on the defensive side of the ball. Rashan Gary is just the first one to fall. They're going to need more guys, but a nice trade for the Dallas Cowboys to get a guy that's impactful on the edge.
A late round pick in next year's draft. That feels like a pretty good bargain from a Dallas perspective.
Well, Rashan Gary is a guy that Green Bay was looking to do something with. I believe they save about $11 million against the cap with this move. So he didn't necessarily fit into their plans. So they get something in return for him. The Cowboys get a 21-year-old who can sack the 28-year-old who can sack the quarterback. And the Cowboys clearly were big fans of last year's Green Bay Packers defense. Now they have Kenny Clark and Rashan Gary from it. But this answers the question of where do the Cowboys go once they lose out on Max Crosby. Now I would expect their resources to be put into those other positions we're talking about, off-ball linebacker, safety, cornerback. They need help at all those places.
There's a lot of that in the draft also, so they can address some of those in the draft. I'm told we've got Orlovsky back in Indianapolis. Excellent. Remember, all these guys will be together with McAfee and crew at noon Eastern today when all this officially begins. But as you can see, it is already off and running. What's your reaction, Dan? Rashan Gary to the Cowboys.
Yeah, I like this addition. 15 sacks over the last 2 seasons for Rashan Gary. And this is also one of the pieces that needed to be checked off for the Cowboys in free agency or the draft, that they just needed edge help. They did not have enough edge pass rush last year, so those 2 interior defensive tackles didn't get the impact that they wanted to. So this isn't just the final move, but this is a good start for Dallas. Off-ball backer like Graz is talking about, and secondary player. It also makes me think that the Packers, I hope, are going to try to make a run to re-sign Romeo Doubs, their star wide receiver that I think they need to keep on the outside. But from a Cowboys perspective, this is a very good start to free agency. Rashan Gary, 15 sacks of the last 2 seasons, is a good pass rush defensive end.
He mentioned the Packers side of it. You think about it, Micah Parsons goes down with an injury late in that season, and now they're moving on from Rashan Gary. And I think we've kind of gone into the season thinking like, hey, is Green Bay going to go all in? They have a new defensive coordinator in John Gannon, but where are the next moves for Green Bay to show up that they're in the NFC and they're going to be a contender? Because, yes, a Romeo Doubs helps Jordan Love on the offensive side of the ball, but you gave up what you gave up for Micah Parsons a year ago, and now you're detracting from the defensive line that impacts Micah Parsons, who's going to be coming off of an injury.
Talent acquisition in the NFL is the definition of a zero-sum game. It is literally robbing from Peter to pay Paul. So maybe on some level, getting Rashan Gary for what they had to give up to get him relative to what it would have cost them to get Max Crosby. Again, Crosby's the big name. It would have led all the shows. It would be the much sexier move. But in this case, maybe this is a very sensible move. I'm told I still have Schefter working with me here. Schefter, fill in some more blanks for us as, again, the news continues to come in.
Yeah, well, this is going to be a third-day pick, as we talked about. They're finalizing it right now. It's third day. And it will reunite Rashan Gary with Kenny Clark. So two former Packers teammates now reunited in Dallas. The Cowboys and Packers have become trade partners here, going back to Micah Parsons last year. And Green Bay shaking things up. Obviously, they move off of Rashan Gary here. They're not done yet. Elton Jenkins, they've been trying to move as well. Their Pro Bowl center, I would expect that he's either traded or released here in the next 24 hours. So they're clearing out some cap space, moving on, transitioning. The Dallas Cowboys are adding to their defensive line as we get started here with what should be a crazy, chaotic day of moves, Greeny.
And Orlovsky, it's just interesting. We hear, and I forget who it was that first made this comment to me, but this is the time that NFL teams tell you the truth, right? They spend all the time lying to you, and then the draft and free agency, if you forget about what they say and you watch what they actually do. The Packers, who were this close, it felt like, to being a Super Bowl team, Micah Parsons goes down, and now they have to start doing all of this retooling. The Cowboys, they sound like they're going for it, Dan. We've been waiting and waiting for them to go for it. Rashan Gary, I know it's not doesn't have the flash of a Max Crosby. I think this is a very, very good move. Dan, the Cowboys feel like a team that's going for it.
They need three moves. This is one of them. This is one of them. And I agree, Greeny. The Cowboys realize, and the football people in the NFL realize, this is a team that is far closer to competing than the maybe public believes that they are. If they can add another piece or two and then grease the draft, the Cowboys are going to be right in the conversation next year for legit contender.
Okay, so we will get into much more of this as we continue. But again, one move has been made in Dallas for a pass rusher. One move has been made in today. Let's look at some of these teams starting in the AFC. Dan, Kansas City looking to get back to the Super Bowl. What's one big move that could help them?
Yeah, sign the Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker Jr. This is a run game in Kansas City that has just declined over the past couple years and was one of the least explosive run games in the NFL last season. Mahomes, ACL, going to have to miss some time, more than likely next year. Go sign a dynamic, young running back to improve your run game, become more balanced on offense.
Let's go to the Commanders. They took a step back last year after making the Final Four. What's something that might help them? J-Mac.
I would like to see him bring Stephon Diggs home. Bring back a guy that is a veteran receiver on the outside and what he can do for Jaden Daniels. You're not expecting to sign him to a long-term deal, but you can bring in a Diggs and watch what he did for Drake May a year ago, over 1,000 yards and being a security blanket for a young receiver, a guy that you can trust that is short-handed, that will make big catches on third down.
And then finally, one I feel like we've been talking about forever, and finally the time is here. Graziano, Vikings, what are they doing about quarterback?
I think I would go with Kyler Murray if I were them, and I think he's part of their calculus along with Geno Smith and maybe some other guys. But Kyler Murray on a minimum salary deal because he has offset language and the Cardinals are paying him $37 million no matter what this year. This feels like a good bet for a team in the Vikings position to make. They aren't fully ready to give up on J.J. McCarthy, but they also don't want to just sort of say, hey, JJ, you're our starter, you're our guy week one. They want a veteran to come in and at least challenge him, if not beat him out.
Schefter, take us through that. Let's start with Kyler Murray and the rest of the quarterbacks today. And is Minnesota a place that you're looking at?
Yeah, that would certainly be a place where he would be interested and they would be interested. But the thing with Kyler Murray here is that, again, he's on that veteran minimum deal because the Cardinals owe him $36.8 million. So he can essentially pick where he wants to go to rehab himself, so to speak, and put himself in the type of position that other quarterbacks have. If we remember, Baker Mayfield wound up with the Rams, claimed on waivers before he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We saw Sam Darnold go to the 49ers, Vikings, Seahawks. We've seen Daniel Jones rehab in Minnesota before going to Indy. Kyler is looking for the right fit. And what he feels like he wants, he probably will have a good option to choose. But again, he's not officially released until 4 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, when he can then go make a deal at that point in time.
But help me with that and help a lot of the fans with that, Schefter. We all assume, I think fans all assume, despite the fact that he's not officially released until Wednesday, that at minimum these conversations begin the moment the Cardinals tell him, right? So they're talking right now. You'll be hearing things about him as soon as today, right?
And by the way, when a team announces under the current CBA that they're moving on from a player, that player is allowed to have conversations even if they have not processed the release. So, yes, of course Kyler Murray is talking to teams, and of course he's going to be curious to see how this quarterback carousel plays out here today, tomorrow, and in the coming days. And again, I think he's going to have a host of options because essentially you're paying him $1.3, $1.4 million. So every team that's out there, why would you not want a quarterback who was the former #1 overall pick, who's put up rushing and passing numbers at this point in his career, whether you like him or not, that are comparable to what Cam Newton and Josh Allen put up? Again, Kyler Murray has detractors, he's got supporters, but the numbers and stats are there, and most of all, he's got a very, very friendly cap situation where you essentially get him this year for free.
Orlovsky, go.
Kyler is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings. We can figure out, look at all this and sit there and say, he's going to be the next guy. If you're Kyler Murray and you're going to get released and you're looking at the landscape, where else would you want to go that even sniffs Minnesota? Don't want to go to Pittsburgh, don't want to go to the Jets, don't want to go to Cleveland, not going to go to Atlanta. So at the places that are options in Miami, Minnesota is by far the best option. And then if you're Minnesota, who sniffs Kyler? Malik Willis, because he's in division, is not going to go there, okay? He's not going to sign a free agency. So Geno Smith, I love Geno, but you'd much rather have Kyler. Kirk Cousins, got a lot of love and respect for Kirk. You'd much rather have Kyler Murray. So we don't have to overthink this. Kyler Murray is going to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings this season, unless J.J. McCarthy unseats him.
I love Orlovsky. Like,
start your fantasy draft now.
Like Schefter's sitting there like, what do you need me for? Dan's got it, right? Like, he's already going to be the Vikings quarterback.
But it does make sense. You just
makes
suggested
a lot
it too.
of sense
Yeah.
for the price. Look, you're going to spend $20, $25 million a year on Malik Willis, who, best case, is probably Kyler Murray,
right?
Or you're going to sign Kyler Murray for $1.3 million, and then maybe see if that helps J.J. McCarthy, or if you decide you want to move on from J.J. McCarthy.
It makes so much sense, and I think the J.J. McCarthy of it all is interesting because you hear people say if they do sign Kyler Murray, that means J.J. McCarthy is done in Minnesota, and I think what Dan O just said is there's a chance that even if they do sign Kyler Murray, who's to say that J.J. McCarthy couldn't potentially beat him out? So I think all of that quarterback room will be very interesting getting Kyler Murray because with J.J. McCarthy, what he does with it all, his opportunity may be slimming, but it's still going to be there. And it may be a fun training camp to see those two actually go out there and compete and see who wins the job.
Dan Orlovsky, you're an expert and I'm just a fan, but it feels to me like this Kevin O'Connell offense, which is the same, it's the offense that all these good teams are running right now. What the role of the quarterback is in that offense and what Kyler Murray does specifically well don't necessarily feel to me like they are the same thing. Help me understand that fit.
100% accurate. Kyler Murray's a playmaker. The offense in Minnesota needs a point guard. And so there's been moments when Kyler has settled into that. In 2024, early in the season, MVP type of performances, he had settled into that point guard role. I think that would be the biggest challenge to pay attention to. Kyler, are you willing to allow the offense and the play to be the star and not yourself? Kyler has said it in his own words to people like me who've called Monday Night Football. I need the ball in my hands. I need to be a playmaker. No, you don't. Not for Kevin O'Connell. You need to have Justin Jefferson be the playmaker, and T.J. Hawkinson be the playmaker, and Jordan Addison be the playmaker. And so if Kyler's willing to do that, Kyler is just as talented as a passer as Sam Darnold, and we watched what he did in Minnesota. So there's a lot to like. Kyler's going to go to Minnesota. He's going to start.
And that's the thing. J.J. McCarthy was drafted in the first round, and what were we saying about him at Michigan?